Hello, we are Adventuresome Reviews, and today, backstabber, traitor, hoodlum. I thought we decided not to do that, so I'll pointed to me as like, oh, it's my turn to introduce us. Yeah, I got so excited. Traitor. Accidental traitor. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Accidental murder is called manslaughter.
Yes, but I didn't kill anybody. The only victim here is your faith in me, which was desperately
repudiatingly in your general direction.
For those who don't know, we had briefly discussed starting with the synopsis.
I thought it was a horrible idea, but every now and then...
And he made this quite clear, so I then realized, okay, so we're not going to start with the synopsis.
Then I signaled in his general direction.
Which I took this to mean I got to introduce us today. And like I said, I was terribly excited by this fact.
I can't even look at you.
All right. Let's start over. You introduce us.
No, I want to do the synopsis first.
Well, fine, be difficult. A darkness is spreading in Valora, and a memory thief is on the run. Stolen memories blacken Cyrilla's hands, making it impossible to hide for long. The memories mix with her own, and it's getting harder to stay in control. Only her family understands the curse of being a memory thief, but they got separated in their escape from the king. It's up to Cyrilla to find them again, but not everything is as it seems in Valora. She must stay in control if she's to keep her freedom, especially since it's no longer the king that's hunting her. Dun, dun, dun!
I look away from you in wrathful despair.
He says as he looks at me.
Anyway, so this was a book I actually quite enjoyed.
I stand opposed to you. Oh, by the way, the book is called The Last Memoria by Rachel Emma Shaw.
Gasp!
Yes, that's quite the unexpected turn of events. An actual author wrote this book.
No, my gasp was at your audacity to dissent with my opinion. I thought we fixed that issue like years ago.
I seem to be having a relapse.
Wait, why didn't you like the book?
Oh, the characters mostly.
Yes.
And it may simply be a foiled expectations or desires that weren't met, but I didn't like any character in the book, right? To some extent, the character I liked most was the villain, and it was because of a throwaway line where it was made clear that he kept his deals he made, right? Even when they're to his detriment. Okay, so the guy's a man of honor, right? It's like, and it's a sad thing when that made me like him more than the main protagonists of the story.
I liked Cyrilla. The other main protagonist, the male one, I could...
Okay, Cyrilla was well written, right? And she had a really nice storyline. That doesn't mean I particularly enjoyed reading her.
I did, so that explains why you're wrong, but nobody can be right all the time.
I'm sure you will try anyway.
I like Cyrilla in part just because she was well written, but I really enjoyed the conflict of her and the conflict of the morality of what she was doing and how it strained on her, even as she continued to do it, but it wasn't such a grievous crime, and every time she did steal someone's memories, there was a very strong, tangible reason for why she had to do it. It wasn't she was doing awful things to do awful things, or for a superficial goal, or out of anything else. It was always about survival. And so it made the conflict of her stealing people's memories interesting, and the moral conflict that was the center of her character interesting and entertaining as well, and it made all the emotional foundations of her character compelling for me.
Cyrilla is the best part of the book. She's probably just about perfect across the board from her, because she is dealing with not necessarily emotional trauma, but she has a psychosis, right? And it's the psychosis of ever since she first drew breath, everyone she's met has been telling her that she's a monster, that she's evil, that she's inhuman, right?
And she's done and experienced things that support that claim and assertion.
And so she has this really enjoyable self-hatred that is persistent throughout the book and reaches a fantastic climax.
Yes.
And she also, with that, she also has the main villain is a substitute father, right? Who simultaneously protects her, loves her, hates her, and not abuses, uses her for his own ends. There's a very particular term for that. It's exploits. Right, there we are. Exploits her. So they have a really interesting relationship because she is desperate for his approval and he cares about her deeply, but he doesn't like the fact that he cares about her because he himself thinks of her as a monster because she has the ability to steal the memories of other people. And it is steal because they lose the memories.
Which was, I really liked how that manifested in the book, how as she stealed memories, her skin would get darker, would get,
tendrils would grow across her.
Of ink, and then she had to burn it away. I liked everything to do with the memories.
It was an incredibly interesting and original bit of magic.
And nicely visual as well.
Yes.
The part where the book started to follow decline for me was when about the 50-way point when we swapped characters, POVs. I did not enjoy the second part as much as I enjoyed the first part. And largely because while the second part really helped expand and show you the other side of a memory, because what happens is that she steals someone's memories or someone loses their memories and you spend the second part of that book in that character's head. And it's a character who was present in the first part and had lots of really strong interactions with Cyrilla. So you have the second part, and all those interactions disappear, all the character nuance disappears, and what she left is a character that is fanatically devoted and in love with Cyrilla. And it's just so much more boring and one-dimensional.
And plus, it's not. This is one of the reasons I didn't like the book, is because this is not organic character development. An accident happens per se that completely rewrites his personality.
So it's great for showing why the stealing of the memories, and it's great for showing and really exploring the power of the stealing the memories. It just sucks from a character perspective.
And it
sucks not as in bad, but just can't enjoy it.
And what's more is that Cyrilla's interactions with this secondary character, who is kind of set up to be the main romance interest, there's history between them, and just once again another thoroughly engaging character dynamic that, because in their past, they met up when she was still living under the king's thumb in the royal palace as his special mage on a leash.
They're called Memoria.
Yeah, but mage is a more general term. And so this happens before the story, right? So you only hear mentions of it and catch glimpses of it through flashbacks. They develop a relationship where
this is like a really huge spoiler.
No, the end of it is the spoiler.
Telling them that there's a spoiler, it's still just
okay.
Basically, just be very careful not to.
I was gonna say that she's basically they start a relationship, and then the king has her steal her lover's memory, so he doesn't remember her at all by the start of the book. And so you have her, and she has these very fond, sweet memories of him, right? But he hates her, and he reviles her because she is a Memoria. She is evil and inhuman. And this sets up a really enjoyable storyline where he slowly gets familiarizes her with again and starts recognizing that she's human and she's not evil and yada yada. Except midway through the book, just like before this narrative even starts really getting underway, he gets his personality rewritten, so you have that entire character arc just stolen away.
Yeah.
And this is a constant theme throughout the book. Within the first couple chapters of the book, she falls into her main group of characters. It's her beau, and then his two friends. Two of the characters of that group hate her. One of which is her beau, and the third is just kind of neutral toward her, right? And she doesn't make a single impression upon anyone. None of them have any character shifts, move toward liking her or
well, there's a little bit. It's just really that one character that never wavers.
And not knowing their names, it's probably making this terribly nebulous for all, but you have this antagonistic character toward her who is not her beau, right? And him I did not like at all, because he has almost no purpose in the story.
He didn't really.
And then you have the kind of the third boy man who is just kind of a token good character, but he's not even a main character, right? And so you are left, there's so much disappointment going on with these characters to me, right? And it's considering you have her and then three other men, and those are the primary people you follow throughout the story. That's just not good. I almost did not like any of the male characters. Conversely, it's like whenever the villain was on screen, right? That was absolutely fantastic, because you had that incredibly complicated, tortured relationship between them, and that was put on brilliant display.
I didn't dislike the secondary main male characters as much as you did. They filled their roles in the story. And so, yes, while they lacked some level of definition outside of their roles were still important to the narrative in their own way.
They were important to the narrative, but nobody built up any relationships with anybody else. Cyrilla spent like a couple weeks with these people, and she built up no relationship with them at all. From where they started to where they ended, they're in the exact same space now that they started the book in. There's no character development at all. The stories didn't progress. Nothing happened. And to start, you don't really like any of the characters or their relationship with Cyrilla, because they view her as evil. That needed to shift. She needed to find a friend. She didn't.
You're getting really mad at me, and I am just looking back at you.
Okay, I'm not getting mad at you. I'm getting a little peeved for the book. Let's leave it. I'm getting forceful.
You're not allowed to be forceful. You must be smooth as jazz, soft as marshmallows.
You go ahead and be jazzy marshmallows.
Cool
I'll be
as a
fire
pickle.
in the sriracha sauce. With some spikes and rock music in the background.
Sleepy as down.
Okay. And so with the characters, or deviating away from the characters, I found the first couple chapters of the book problematic. The book started out really good. They're in a dark, spooky forest, and the author drops these really nice mentions of open graves,
The world was really well built.
Right. And so they're in the forest, and the author introduces two major dangers: the vines, or what was the vines called? Basically, it's a
Giant nebulous monster
of black vines that drop down from the sky and trees and suck all people's memories out of them, right? It's basically an evil hex on the forest. And then there's these graves that people drop into randomly. And this made for a really cool setting, because she and her brother are fleeing away from the castle, right? And the opening scene is also really engaging because she has to convince her brother not to steal this child's memories, right? So obviously her brother's a bit of a interesting character in of himself, morally ambiguous, while she's very steadfast in stealing memories is wrong. So you have a really nice relationship and interactions there. And then they rush off into the dark of the forest, and there's the risk of the graves and this evil vine that steals people's memories, and instantly they stop off at a town. And in that town, they spend half a night there. Just enough time for her brother, and this is the second chapter, to cause trouble in a tavern and for them to split up. After that, she then runs through the forest, falls unconscious, and wakes up in a random village, in a random old lady's house that she then splits from, and the old lady doesn't show up again. It's just serves no point, and it slows down the story. By the time she actually meets the characters that the story centers on, her brother's not even in the story, right? The first 4 or 5 chapters are just random scenes.
I disagree, because the opening chapters introduce you to so many important concepts in the story, as well as allowing her to display her personality and her opinions in a balanced environment. The first chapters, they don't have like a core center, yes, but they are vital to making you understand what you're reading. And it still
feel like there's so much better. There's a much better way to do that than just random scenes in random places that she spends a single chapter at before leaving, and none of them ever show up again.
It didn't bother me.
All I know is that after I was bored through the first 4 chapters, right? I struggled to read because we changed scene and people around her too frequently, and none of it had any permanence in the story. Like, apart from her character itself. The main purpose for the first 4 chapters is exploring Cyrilla's character a little bit, which can happen literally in any chapter.
The other thing I was going to say about the book is that, on a plotting standpoint, the book is excellent. Just like the narrative decisions the author makes. And you might not like the first 4 chapters, but I'm talking more like the larger scale one, and the character conflicts and just all of that. The conclusions and the partway conclusions, and even where the book ends entirely, it's all just an excellent series of choices that, most of the time, I wasn't not expecting is quite the right word, but it kept me constantly interested because they took the story in new ways constantly.
Yeah, I will agree with that. There was engaging and thoroughly great scenes throughout the book, right? And it's one of the little commentary, this book is so great, phrases that the author tacked onto the synopsis said that this book is full of heartbreak, and that's very true. Lots of tragedy happens in this book. It is dark and depressing throughout, and that's just terribly, but it's well handled, and it actually feeds into the characters and the relationships between, like, her and the villain, her and her romance interest exceedingly well. However, something that is a little bit squiggly is, okay, so Cyrilla is a Memoria, right? And she's a half-breed between a Memoria and a human, right? And the Memorias are hanging off a little on the far side of the forest, living their best lives. And the king don't like this. He's the villain, so he gears up his army and goes, we're going to go burn them heretics, right? Walks into the forest. That very night, the Black Vine, that's the name, Black Vine, which is the memory-stealing vines, attacks him and basically kills off his entire army. Except, 2 days later, his army's all perfectly fine. Except the very next night, the Black Vine attacks again and decimates his army again. It's like, how does he still have an army enough to attack this place? It's like his army should have been dead, like, went through 2 natural disasters. It kind of It's like the troops there's constant mention is like, if the army's alive anymore, I doubt we'll even make it through this forest, and it's just horribly squiggly. But not too detrimental to the story.
Any other general plot stuff that you don't...
Nothing
I'm talking
like
about general plot stuff because you've spoiled a lot of the minute and plot details.
I don't know.
They know what happens in the first 4 chapters. They know what happens in the middle of the book. They know various plot points in the second half of the book.
Well, I could spoil the absolute killer ending, but I don't think I will.
I would have given this book about 4 stars. I really enjoyed it.
3 stars for me. I did not like the characters.
Yeah, I can see that. Or I can see that you disliked it. I don't see why you disliked them. Anyway, that'll be it for today. I'll go cry in my bedroom and be depressed.
Why are you depressed? I'm the one who had to read a terrible book. It's not terrible, and it's probably best to say that this book was simply not for me. But other people who are more mentally inhibited, like my brother, may enjoy the book.
My brilliance is uncompared.
Okay.
Toodaloo, au revoir, goodbye.
Fare thee well, our future friends.